tallest pyramid in Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza, is the oldest of 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was once 481 feet tall, but has since eroded down to 451 feet. To put its scale into perspective, the Great Pyramid of Giza is taller than the Statue of Liberty, the Big Ben, and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But who's responsible for the creation of this ridiculously tall and mysterious pyramid? How was it built? Stick around to find out. Before getting into the intricacies of who built the pyramids, let's first go through a brief overview of their history. Although the ones in Giza quickly come to mind whenever we talk about pyramids, there are actually 118 still intact in Egypt today. The oldest of which is the Pyramid of Djoser, located in Saqqara. The pyramid was built in 2630 BC for King Djoser. Several of the most famous pyramids may be seen in Giza, a city outside of Cairo. These include the Khafre Pyramid, the Giza Necropolis, and the Pyramid of Khufu, also known as the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramids were constructed as monuments to house the pharaoh's tombs. For ancient Egyptians, death was considered just the start of a journey to the afterlife. They thought that when the pharaoh passed away, a small portion of his spirit, or Ka, remained with his mortal body. The objective of mummification, which we've all probably learned about in school at some point, was to preserve a king's spirit, which the ancient Egyptians thought continued to exist. In the eyes of the Egyptians, the mummified body served as the dwelling place for this soul or spirit. And if it were destroyed, the spirit may be lost and wouldn't be able to find its way back. They'd also bury some of the king's most precious belongings along with the body for his enjoyment in the afterlife. As you can see, the ancient Egyptians were pretty serious about their beliefs. Now back to the pyramids. They are primarily made of carved out giant stone blocks, with white limestone being utilized for the outside. The interior walls, on the other hand, were made of granite, and the floors were made of basalt. The Great Pyramid of Giza is made up of 2.3 million blocks of limestone, each weighing around 2.5 tons. According to Herodotus, an ancient Greek historian, the Greek Pyramid of Giza took 20 years to construct, and 100,000 slaves were needed for the job. It is believed that approximately 8 people were needed to move a 2.5-ton block. However, the BBC believes that it's highly unlikely that the king at the time, King Khufu, had such a large number of slaves at his disposal. It's also important to note that for years, many believed that the Jews built the pyramids after seeing them portrayed in biblical films. However, this theory was quickly debunked as the pyramids were built around 2600 BC, and the Jews weren't enslaved around Egypt around 1300 BC at the time of Ramses II, according to historians. Some also believed that this theory could have stemmed from the book of Exodus, specifically chapter 14, where it states, "They made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, in which they made them serve, was with rigor." Then there are those who believe that aliens built the pyramids. After all, conspiracy theories make the world go round. Or flat. Although this theory may seem new, it actually dates back to medieval times. The sheer scale and alignment of the structures quickly make people scratch their heads and ask themselves, how could humans 3,000 years ago build such structures? That then leaves one other likely scenario. It was built by aliens. Some people think that the Great Pyramid of Giza is somehow aligned with the universe because it is located at a latitude of 29.9792458 degrees north, which also happens to be the speed of light's numerical value. However, it wasn't until 1950 that humans were able to accurately measure the speed of light. Back to reality now. Along with other pieces of evidence, the Egyptian hieroglyphs found inside the pyramids tell a very different tale and have brought experts, and now us, closer to understanding who built the pyramids and how they did it. Archaeologists have concurred that the Great Pyramid's workforce consisted of 4,000 workers, which included hauliers, quarry workers, and masons. They resided in a pyramid village with their families. A group of 16,000 to 20,000 substitute workers were in charge of a variety of tasks, such as constructing ramps, forging equipment, making mortar, and supplying food and clothing. They had their own camp not far from the settlement. This results in a total of 20,000 to 24,000 people working for at least 20 years. Although there is still much to learn about the villages where the pyramid builders lived, we are aware that they slept on dirt ramps that resembled Barak beds. These baraks were in galleries, which can be compared to enormous dorms and would accommodate thousands of workers. The back of these sleeping chambers included areas for cooking and coppersmithing. But what about the people who built them? Based on evidence found in the villages, experts concluded that the workers primarily ate beef, sheep, and fish. Skeletal remains also indicated that many of the workers suffered from arthritis. Khufu's pyramid seems to have been a national project, with workers being drawn to Giza from all over Egypt. According to Dr. Muamana Kamal of Cairo University Medical School, who conducted a comparison between DNA samples taken from the workers' bones and samples taken from contemporary Egyptians. As claimed in some of the more creative pyramid theories, no evidence of alien race, either human or extraterrestrial, was ever found. We know when, why, who, and the tools used to build the pyramids. But how were they built? It has been widely accepted for many years now that the ancient Egyptians constructed their massive pyramids by hauling large granite stones up specially designed ramps. However, Newport engineer Peter James believes that it's highly unlikely that the pyramids were built that way because the ramps would have needed to be a quarter-mile long, or else they would have been too steep to lift the heavy blocks up. Therefore, according to him, the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids from the inside out. Smaller, lighter blocks were used to create a central core of zigzagging ramps, and a scaffolding was used to install the larger stones that made up the outer casing. As we've already mentioned, huge quantities of stone were required to construct these pyramids, so the Egyptians had to devise a practical method of transporting the blocks. A schematic drawing in the tomb of Djehuti-Hotep, which illustrates 172 men pulling a 60-ton colossal statue on a sled, has given experts a better sense of the techniques ancient Egyptians may have used to transport the heavy blocks. The photo depicts sleds, which were simply wooden planks with upturned edges, being dragged across the desert ground. A worker also seemed to be lubricating the ground, which made dragging the sleds much easier. As for measuring, they didn't use rulers. They used something called a cubit, which was equal to the length from the tip of one's middle finger to the elbow, about 18 inches, and a palm, which was the distance across one's palm. According to Dr. Richard Perry, the ancient Egyptians may have also used a device resembling a cradle to support the rocks and allow a few people to roll them. Obayashi Corporation, a Japanese construction company, proved this to be possible when it conducted an experiment with 18 workers and made them drag a 2.5-ton block over a distance of 18 meters, using what was presumably used at the time. The ancient Egyptians wanted to ensure that the sides of the structures ran parallel to the north-south and east-west axis. However, they didn't have any compasses. Therefore, they had to rely on nature to get the job done. They used sighting rods and circles to locate the rising and setting stars or the sun's shadow. They also used movements of the stars to determine which direction was north. The remaining cardinal directions might subsequently be determined by employing lines and right angles. They were undoubtedly a resourceful group. There you have it. Now you have the knowledge to have endless debates with ardent conspiracy theorists who believe that aliens built the pyramids. Check out our video on things found on Mars if you want to see chilling discoveries made by NASA on the Red Planet. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in seeing more content like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.